Wonya wotani na wonya ekema monono. Ewot ikawa ilule mazuku. Liwalini. Ambe wali kombene. Yo. Inge nijali waja kumba. Naliumungaka. Mongi we.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Like our fallen heroes and heroines died and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La Repubblica Cameroon. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough, so let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It's time for the Federal Capital Territory, Fako.
Wonya wotani na wonya ekema monono. Ewot ikawa ilule mazuku. Liwalini. Ambe wali kombene. Inge nijali waja kumba. Naliumungaka. Mongi we.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Like our fallen heroes and heroines died and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La Repubblica Cameroon. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough, so let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It's time for the Federal Capital Territory, Fako. The number one most important thing for every Ambazonian to do right now is the draft. We stand at the threshold of an existential struggle, a pivotal juncture in our proud history that brooks no failure, tolerates no hesitation. So we will draft incessantly, individually, within the warm, vibrant tapestries of our communities. We will draft. We must draft. Draft, for in this paramount task, our draft lies the power to liberate Ambazonia.
Good evening, Ambazonians, and good evening, the world. You're welcome to this week on Ambazonia. What has been trending in Ambazonia? What has been trending in the world? Of course, you know that Ambazonians are not left out, because every weekday we here on Undaunted take special look at happenings across the globe, happenings across the world, and we'll bring it to you. And so today we will go in depth to see what could lead to World War III. What is happening with the Israel and Iran war, the Ukraine and Russia conflict? And when we go to the United States, the question will be, can democracy survive the Trump's administration? And at the end of the day, what are the chances that Ambazonia will have? Well, I will not forget that today is also Fako Draft Day in memory of the two key soldiers that Ambazonians lost 2 weeks ago. All these and more will delve on tonight's Undaunted. Do not forget again that over the week there were communiques that were brought in from the departments of IT and communication. We will definitely analyze those communiques today and what how the people in the home front, how they are going about this election. It seems like they have forgotten what Ambazonia stands for and what the interest of Ambazonia is and how Ambazonians should react and act when it comes to the election. But before we get into the flash newspaper, of course, you know that I'm not Mr. Tapa the King, but somehow I may try to put my feet into his shoes tonight. And yes, we have some other persons who would definitely share in this conversation tonight. Of course, I'm sure that Barrister Fru John Nsoh is in the house. Barrister Fru, how are you doing? Just want to be sure of your sound at this point. Barrister Fru, if you're there, can we have you? Right, while we're trying to establish that connection fully, Barrister Team Mbeseha. Oh, Barrister Fru, how are you doing? Nice to see you tonight.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, thank you, Onye. Thank you, Onye, for another Saturday. We are ready to go.
I'm sure we are. Barrister Mbeseha, we see every weekday. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm up and alive, ready to go on.
I'm sure that in the course of this conversation, Barrister Gana Valentine will definitely join us. And once he joins us, of course, you know how we go about it. You all are authorities in this field, and it will be a great thing that Ambazonia listens to you. And I'm sure that they will learn one or two things. So before we delve into news from the home front, let's get to find out what is happening across the world. The World War III itself. And what is Ambazonians' gain at the end of the day? To just justice to these for us, we have Star Smart, who will take us into the global world of news and bring in these special reports. And thereafter, would come in to analyze as well.
Wonya wotani na wonya ekema monono ewot ikawa irule magufu liwalini ambe wali kombeme yo inge ngijali waja kumba naliumunga mombi we halo.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifice.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La República War. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough, so let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It's time for the Federal Capital Territory, Fako.
Wonya wotani na wonya ekema monono ewot ikawa irule magufu liwalini ambe wali kombeme yo inge ngijali waja kumba naliumunga mombi we halo.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifice.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La República War. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough. So let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
Stand for the Federal Capital Territory, Fako.
All right, thank you, Onyide, for that wonderful introduction. Well, on the Flash News, we see the special report and this week, what it has been like for Ambazonia and the entire globe. And we see that in a week where global powers clashed across airwaves, deserts, and diplomatic stages, the world once again teetered on the edge of escalation. Well, we see Trump's unyielding grip on the United States foreign policy with Iran's explosive standoff to Trump's unyielding grip on the United States foreign policy. The international order is shifting with unsettling speed. Yet in the midst of these tectonic movements, one war remains stubbornly invisible, which is Ambazonia's. Now, while ceasefires are negotiated in high offices and military budgets climb to in the name of defense, we see Ambazonians enduring violence, hunger, and abandonment with no audience, no outrage, and no intervention. The war doesn't pause for summit. It doesn't wait for headlines. Now, when the giants of the world roars, we wonder who hears the cry of the abandoned. Well, this is the Flash News, and welcome. Now, while the world's camera turns to the desert flashpoints of the Middle East and the polished halls of Western diplomacy, the war in Ambazonia continues, largely unrecorded, scarcely acknowledged, and bitterly endured. Now, it is a war without daily headlines, a crisis without donors, a struggle that is as invisible as it is intense. Yet this week, like many before it, saw no shortage of chaos and quiet defiance. On Monday, June 23rd, 2025, it opened with a familiar symbol of national resistance, the ghost town across the Amazonian homeland. Markets were shuttered. We see streets lay bare and citizens withdrew into silence, not as a surrender, but as a collective act to protest. In a world where oppression is normalized, silence has become the only language that the oppressed can weaponize. But then, the silence was violently interrupted. Gunmen in Bamenda's and Quain neighborhood abducted 3 individuals, including a pregnant woman, for the blurring the line between victim and collateral. While in the same city, erratic gunfire echoed through the night, sending families scrambling for shelter. The state may call it disorder. The people know it as survival. Now, elsewhere, fire outbreaks rocked Victoria amid a mounting collapse of urban infrastructure. We see farmers in Ambazonia's fertile valleys reported systematic sabotage by the colonial agents undermining rice production at a time when food scarcity looms. In Bamenda, the unveiling of a gas plant disguised as development only exposed once more the exploitative logic of colonial occupation. Extract resources, sell dreams, and leave the people starved of both fuel and freedom. Now, amid hunger and heartbreak, despair wears new disguises. Job scammers preyed on war-weary youths, desperate for a way out. Butchers blame prices hikes in cow meat on the difficulty of transporting livestock through unsafe roads. Another reminder that war doesn't just kill people, it starves communities, shrinks economies, and deforms dignity. Meanwhile, in Bowie County, resistance forces reportedly ambushed colonial troops in yet another flash of retaliatory fire. The Amazonian government in exile declared Cameroonian propagandist Issa Chiroma persona non grata, issuing warnings against electoral collaborations with the occupying regime. But even within Amazonian leadership, fractures emerged as fresh allegations against the president in exile stirred debate over transparency, loyalty, and direction. But through it all, the Amazonian diaspora clings to culture, singing songs of home, from lands that offer safety but never full belonging. The war, it seems, follows them too, in memory, in identity, and in longing. Well, before we get to our panelists, let's take a look at the global scope. When we see Ambazonia's war, what does the war around the globe say, particularly with Israel and Iran? 12 days of ferocious military confrontation between Israel and Iran have ended, but not in resolution, only in strategic pause. A ceasefire was declared, but neither side appears ready to commit to lasting peace. For both, the confrontation has become as much about perception as it is about survival. In Tehran, crowds celebrated what the regime branded a show of resilience. In Jerusalem, Netanyahu declared a generational triumph, 2 victories from 1 war, yet only one truth will prevail. Behind the political theater, the reality is sobering. Dozens of Iranian scientists, chemists, engineers, and nuclear physicists were assassinated in surgical Israeli strikes. These targeted killings, while praised in some security circles, have stirred global ethical debate. Can peace ever emerge from the silence of the silenced? Is the question. But then from Iran, the loss may have set back their nuclear ambition, but it has not extinguished them. In Israel, the sense of existential danger has only deepened. Meanwhile, in Gaza, the bombs never stopped falling. The ceasefire with Iran did not extend to Palestinians, and Israeli military operations against Hamas continue with chilling precision. Humanitarian corridors exist only in theory. On the ground, aid trucks are blocked, medical facilities are bombed, and civilian casualties mount. The ceasefire, in essence, has become a tale of selective quiet, a staged truce on one front and unrelenting fire on another. Diplomacy dances on a tightrope strung over civilian graves. But at this juncture, we'll pause to ask our panelists an interesting question. Before we get to that, we'd like to confirm if Barrister Gana is with us. Barristers. Good evening, barristers. It's a pleasure to have you all in one seat here again this weekend. And looking at this report, we want to have your legal perspective to it, looking at Ambazonia's war and the current war that is pulling waves and news headlines all around the globe, the Iran-Israel war. Let's start with you, Barrister Gana. Looking at the 2 wars, what would you say Ambazonia, where would you say Ambazonia stands right now? Where would you say the war with Israel and Iran stands at the moment?
By the way, greetings to our very honored panelists who are on. Greetings to Barrister Fru Nsoh and to our senior barrister, Mbeseha, who is on. Again, the world looks like it's in turmoil, and whenever you have the world looking like it's in turmoil, something good always comes out. We saw that in World War I, we saw that in World War II. We see that there are 2 regional civil wars going on. We see there's a civil war, a regional civil war going on within the Middle East, where we have Israel duking it out with Iran, and we have in the Slavic region, we have the Russians digging it out with the Ukrainians. Most of these conflicts are going to be settled based on the right to sovereignty, and all of that speaks to us also in Ambazonia insisting on what is rightfully ours, which is our right to sovereignty. The one in Palestine looks very happy because the sovereignty of the Palestinians is really being bloodily challenged here. But I would want to use these conflicts going on as an inspiring point for Ambazonia, because what the conflicts are somewhat demonstrating that we should learn from is that there are certain values that are human values in the world. There are certain values such as the value of sovereignty, the value to live as a free person in your own land, the value to be able to build and defend yours consistent with the laws of your own land. And when a region or a country is not given those rights, when those rights are not enshrined to a country or a region, eventually other events in the world occur where the deprivation of that right to your own country or to your own region stands out like a sore thumb, and whether the world likes it or not, the arch of things is going to bend towards those universally accepted rights. Let me give an example. If you look at the situation of Russia and Ukraine digging it out, the West a long time ago had concluded that the rights of the human being, the rights to defend the civilian population, the right of free speech, the right to be able to build property and transfer that property, all of those universally accepted rights, they had concluded that those rights were enshrined maybe just to Europe, and they treated the developing world and the third world as people who were not born deserving of those rights. And because they treated the third world as people who were not born and deserving of those rights, that a conflict that is challenging those same rights has crept up on their own doorstep. And the conclusion of that conflict, for example, between Ukraine and Russia, is going to end with the right of sovereignty, the right of freedom, the right of Ukrainians to choose whoever they want to associate with. That is how that conflict is going to end. That's how it's going to be settled. And France, Germany, England, Europe, they are affirming that right for Ukraine. But what they do not realize is that we have Ambazonia here, and France, through its embassy in Cameroon, is trying by all means necessary to deprive Ambazonia of that same right that they are fighting to confer on Ukraine, which Ukraine deserves. So as murky as these conflicts are, they will end up highlighting the deprivation of that right to a country like Ambazonia, and however La République delays coming to the negotiation table, that is going to be what is going to help decide the end of this conflict. The right of sovereignty and the right of Ambazonians to sit on the international table as a sovereign people. So I know the conflict between Iran and Israel does not speak very well as it pertains to this, but the conflict in Ukraine more so speaks of the arch of global events bending towards affirming Ambazonia's right as a sovereign people. So again, my apologies to our guests for being for being late. I was held hostage by some events that I was not in control of. So my profound apology.
Of the war around the globe is quite interesting. We'd like to get your thoughts about this now, Barrister Mbeseha, as it connects with Ambazonia.
Well, thank you once more for having me. If there's anything we can learn from what is going on in the Middle East in particular, we Ambazonians must acknowledge or try to understand that we are in the similar circumstances, exactly the same circumstances. The war between Israel, a potential war between Israel and Iran, is only based on Israel and Palestine. Iran does not share any borders with Israel. Nowhere do they share borders with Israel. But why is this war being fought? Why is Iran being fought here? It's simply because Iran supports Palestine. And what is the Palestinian problem is exactly like what we have. Palestine was one of those Ottoman states that was seized after the First and Second World War. Palestine was given to the UK to administer. They were a League of Nations territory, just like Southern Cameroon was. Palestine was given to the UK, I've said, to administer for eventual independence, just like British Southern Cameroon. But what happened to Palestine? The British who were supposed to administer that territory into. In fact, there were many other Ottoman territories in Asia. All of them got independence. All these monarchies up there, they all had independence, except Palestine. Just like all other territories in Africa given to the UK had independence, except Southern Cameroon. And so when time came for independence, the British colluded in 1917, in Resolution 181, to create the state of Israel inside Palestine. And so come forward 1948, they created the state of Israel inside Palestine. How did they do it? They demarcated a territory there called Israel. Because the Israelis have been wondering, we are doing the Bible for 40 years in the desert and so on and so forth. They demarcated a territory there which they created for Israel, removed the Palestinians who were living there, dispersed them around the world. And so, since the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, Israel has been at war with the Palestinians. It does not end there. When they created the State of Israel, Mr. Trump was just about 1.5 years old. It was born in 1946. And so he has come to the president meeting the same problem there, and they think they can solve it with war. They will not solve it with war. Just like giving us the Republic of Cameroon, war will not solve that problem. And so you find what is going on in Palestine, in Israel, and Iran. I've said they don't have any borders. What is the problem with Iranian having nuclear weapons? What is a nuclear weapon? A nuclear weapon is not an offensive weapon. It is a defensive weapon. If North Korea has nuclear weapons, India has, Pakistan has, the United States has tons of them. Israel even has. What is the problem if Iran also has its own nuclear weapons? They don't want them to have it because they don't want them to have any defense. Because once they had their nuke right now, those throw bombs will not happen because they would retaliate. And a nuclear weapon is not anything that you can defend against it. It will kill everybody there, it will decimate everybody. And so the problem in Palestine, I don't want to limit myself to Palestine, Israel and Iran, because it is so similar to us. And now, if you see what's going on now, just within the past few months, we heard from the United States and Israel telling Iran for total surrender to disarm. We heard them telling the Palestinians to disarm and surrender. But as we speak today, after all those warnings, have they disarmed? Certainly not. Has Iran surrendered? Certainly not. They claim to have bombed their nuclear websites. Well, their sites. Is it true? I doubt. Because they're still standing there. Iran is still standing there. Iran is such a very big country. You cannot go and throw bombs on it without any justified cause. And so again, it is very much like us. In the last 1 year or so, since the war started between Israel and the Hamas, what happened? They've indicted Netanyahu at the ICC. It first started with the part resolution. Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, would tear them publicly. He tear them in public and said they were worth nothing. Now that he has been indicted, you see them, the Americans, the British, all their allies are crying foul. Well, the ICC has a meaning. Because Netanyahu will not venture to go to South Africa, for example. That's sponsored that resolution. Or anyway, they will arrest him. And so back to the issue, why is our matter not important? Why are they not reacting the same way like us? It is not because Israel has some gold, has some oil. In the whole Middle East, there's oil everywhere. In Saudi Arabia, in Iraq, in Iran. There's no oil in Israel. Absolutely nothing. Their budget is being financed by the United States. Why have they developed this interest to go bombing their own enemies? Whoever they think is a foe is an enemy of the Israelis around the world, they'll come and bomb you. Here's something anti-Semitic stories. Why are they developing this interest on Israel and not a similar interest on us? half of. In fact, there's a million compared to Ambazonia, which is about 8 million people. And we have resources. But why have they done this? It is simply because the Israelis, wherever they find themselves, particularly in the United States, in Europe, where they were dispersed, they've infiltrated the political system. They have control over the political system. Not physical control, you can do everything. For example, you cannot go on any social media or on any American media, call it CNN, and talk bad of Israel. Because they control that media. Or Fox News, they control that media. And so it is for us, what we can learn from it is, wherever we find ourselves, if we can make ourselves relevant in those countries that would support us, that would be a golden opportunity. But again, the problem between Israel and Palestine is exactly the problem of Ambazonia. The problem of uncompleted decolonization. They didn't decolonize them. They gave them up in 1917 by signing on to that agreement that said they would plant a new state inside Palestine. They planted one. They didn't make the boundaries fixed so that they could own their own state, which is what we hear them talking today, the two-state solution. Israel has to exist as a state. But the existence should not threaten the neighbors. Should not threaten Palestine. Should not threaten Iran or any other country, which is what we're looking for. We want to exist as Ambazonians. When we do exist like that, we're not going to be a threat to Nigeria, which is a big country. We're not going to be a threat to our neighbor in the east or anybody else. And so this is what I'm married as far as Ambazonia is concerned. As Gana says, at the end of the day, they will come to the table. As I've said, the Israeli problem started in 1948 when Trump was 2 years old. It has not finished. You hear them talking about peace talks. They will come to the table to find solutions acceptable to both parties. No party is going to disarm in favor of the other, no matter your might. Just like telling Cameroon Republic that they should think that because they are so mighty, Ambazonia should lay down their arms and walk out of their fighting camps and come and surrender. That will not happen. They can go on for as long as they want. Israel and Palestine have been going on since 1948. The Palestinians, who are weaker in terms of support, have not surrendered in war. As the people have always said, I think we believe it, all wars end on the peace conference, no matter the size of the parties. And so that's what it is. That's what we should learn from it. We should take ourselves as so small compared to compared to our neighbors. And our message is, we pose no threat to anybody. We just want to survive. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Barrister Mbeseha. It's really interesting how you know the history of the wars down to this point where we're at, and it's a good insight to get to see where it started from until this point. And now, Barrister Fru, we have an interesting question. Looking at the recent happenings, we see the ceasefire between Israel and Iran, and the question is, do we see this truce as something that could hold long-term, or is it just another calm before the storm? And if it is another calm before the storm, what indicators should we watch out for?
Thank you very much, Stas. The last 15 days have taught me a lesson. And the lesson is that Israel is considered the West. And the whole West has not learned a lesson because the whole world is acting against the West. Their only farm, the farm that the West has, Africa, is moving. It's moving very rapidly and the West is panicking. Having said that, let's examine why Israel, unprovoked, 12 or 15 days ago, carries warplanes and bombed Iran, a sovereign country, in violation of international law. And Iran responded. What happened? For the first time since Israel started bombing the Palestinians, bombing everywhere, fighting in Lebanon and so on, for the first time, missiles from from Iran devastated parts of Israel for the first time. That is a sign that the West must watch it. Iran may be quiet now as we see it, but America, in support of Israel, had to go and bomb Iran. And Iran not really prepared to confront a world power, they mellowed. That doesn't mean that they have given up. They mellowed. They've lost some important military officers, but that is war. Look, the West is trembling and panicking about losing their only farm, the continent of Africa. I'll give you an example. I just heard the news before I got here. America has gotten Rwanda and the Congo to sign a peace pact to end the war in the Congo. You know what? It's what I term transactional diplomacy. Transactional diplomacy. We will end the war in your territory if you give us this. And that is what has just happened. Rwanda and the Congo are going to be meeting. They have already signed a peace pact. They'll be meeting the President of the United States in the next few days. What makes us think that the same transactional diplomacy cannot take place in Ambazonia? Because let's face it, Ambazonia is one of the richest countries in the Gulf of Guinea. In fact, they control the resources of the resources that are in Ambazonia are more the resources in the Gulf of Guinea are more in Ambazonia than any other country in the Gulf of Guinea. La Republique is joking. La Republique is joking. Outside of Nigeria, I'm not putting Nigeria inside the Gulf of Guinea. I'm looking at the other side of the Gulf of Guinea. Nigeria is a big player.
Something so interesting that, forgive me, but I have to cut you, Barrister Fru, I beg your pardon. You said something really interesting about strategic diplomacy when it comes to the United States and Donald Trump. Let's take a look at what Donald Trump has been doing when it comes to global power and influence. We'll take a look at that and then we'll come back to you. We'd like to get more of that, but just after we finish Trump's involvement with
yes, can I finish my thought? Can I finish my thought? My thought is geared towards the effect of all these wars on Ambazonia.
All right, briefly, and then we get to that.
Yes, I've just given you an example of a peace treaty between Rwanda and the Congo and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Just yesterday, between they signed a peace pact here in Washington. I just heard it in the news. And it has been brokered by the United States in what I will term transactional diplomacy. Transactional diplomacy means we will settle your conflict if we get this or that. And that I see it in Ambazonia. I see it coming to Ambazonia. And I wanted to go a little bit further, but since you stopped me, I'm going to end here and to tell you that Ambazonia is now ready. We are ready for any kind of diplomacy, be it transactional, be it whatever diplomacy it is, we are ready.
All right, Barrister Fru. Well said. I mean, the lives lost is nothing. The wealth rather of Ambazonia is nothing compared to the lives lost. So when you say Ambazonia is now ready for whatever kind of diplomacy, whether transactional, that can be understood by every single Ambazonian. I mean, what transaction is worth more? The lives of Ambazonians that have been lost due to this war. So going back to Donald Trump and his influence across the globe, we've seen President Donald Trump's return to power has sent quite a shockwave across global diplomacy, and it is no longer a disruptor on the fringe. Trump now sits squarely at the center of the new world order, and he is unafraid to act unilaterally. His authorization of joint Israeli-US strikes on Iranian nuclear sites was done without prior congressional approval. Attempts at impeachment were swiftly quashed in a rare show of bipartisan agreement, an unsettling signal that raw power now supersedes legislative oversight in America's military calculus. Now, at the NATO summit in The Hague, Trump reaffirmed the United States' commitment to Article 5. Now, while subtly redefining it, his emphasis on practical defense and accountability over blank checks has fractured traditional alliances. European leaders squirmed behind smiles, Eastern European states whispered approval, and Canada refused a dose of Trumpian sarcasm when Prime Minister Carney quipped about America's fading appetite for annexation, when he describes Canada as the 51st, the next nation to make his part of the United States. But then Trump's response was classic. He said, we want strong allies, not dependent. Now, across the Atlantic, Trump's state visit to the United Kingdom is being planned with surgical precision. Though a meeting with King Charles may be off the summer calendar, we see trade and defense talks with Prime Minister Sunak signaling the revival of the special relationship, this time with an edge sharper than ceremony. Meanwhile, the FBI has added Venezuelan cartel boss El Viego to its most wanted list in a symbolic gesture of Trump's renewed hardline stance on hemispheric threats. The message is unmistakable that America will act before threats cross its borders and won't seek permission to do so. We see that the global chessboard is now set. Alliances are realigning. Hostilities are hardening. Proxy conflicts are blurring into direct confrontations. And for the first time since World War II, there is an unmistakable scent of something darker on the horizon. The Israel-Iran conflict was not just a regional flare-up. It was a test balloon for how far world powers can go without igniting a global inferno. The fact that the United States and Israel coordinated surgical strikes against nuclear sites without triggering international retaliation may embolden future operations. But then each successful strikes comes with a price, the erosion of diplomatic restraint. China watches with interest as Taiwan tightens defenses. Russia continues its war in Ukraine undeterred. NATO is bigger, but more divided. Cyber warfare, economic sanctions, energy control, and weaponized information now form the new pillars of confrontation. World War III, if it comes, will not be declared. It will unfold like a sunrise, gradual, undeniable, and too late to stop once it has begun. Now, this is what critics are envisaging. Even more terrifying is the psychological aspect, the digitalization of fear. Iran's population now receives eerie AI-generated voicemails hinting at their possible annihilation. The use of psychological warfare to precondition populations is no longer fiction. It is policy. If the battlefield expands to include perception itself, then what remains of the truth? So Barrister Fru, let's get back to you when we talk of Trump's influence when it comes to the war and how he's going on about with his transactional diplomacy. We've seen his footprints in the war between Israel and Iran, siding obviously with his ally. And when you say transactional relations, we'd like you to delve deeper into this, looking at this rundown of what the war and the global space has been like this week. Barrister Fru, we'd like you to continue from where you stopped.
Transactional diplomacy is what the Trump administration has developed to carry out its diplomacy around the world. And he has the coming to power of Trump has shifted the power mechanics in the world. He alone has shifted the power mechanics in the world, including Europe. The Europeans are scared to death if the United States left NATO. And Trump is calling the shot at NATO by increasing the defense spending from 2% to 5%, and everybody is lining up. Because the West, Europe, for example, cannot afford to lose Trump. Now, transactional diplomacy means I have the power to solve the conflict between you two, but I need this. What I will take is this. It just happened in the Congo. I have the power to solve this conflict in Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon. But you, La République du Cameroon, you have to put something on the table. Ambazonia, put something on the table, and I will separate the two of you. I am in position to bring peace and stability in the two countries, just like he's trying to do in Rwanda and the Congo and Democratic Republic of Congo. And if that happens, I am saying for the last 60 years, Ambazonia has gotten nothing from its own natural resources, God-given resources. Because colonial France and La République du Cameroon have been taking everything to the exclusion of Ambazonia. So what stops Ambazonia from getting involved in transactional diplomacy? Transactional diplomacy, don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean taking it all. It's a win-win situation. And given that the farm that the Europe and America had in Africa, just going and taking, the farm is going away. The people who own the farm are fighting back. It is now the big boys will want to situate themselves and say, okay, this is what is going to happen. We are going to treat with you directly, but you will have to treat with us like this. And we'll negotiate. It's now negotiation, no longer taking. That's what I call transactional diplomacy. He tried it in Ukraine and Russia, but put it only on Ukraine. And it failed. Well, it has not failed really, but it has not worked either. I cannot say it's failed because the war has not ended. And he has tried it with NATO and has worked. He says the United States will no longer be the ones financing all the wars, and you put your defense spending at 2%. I'm taking it to 5%. Trump has changed the world order. Whether we see it or not, but that is a fact. Just listen to what he said in NATO. And just look at what NATO is now doing. The thing has led from 2% to 5% defense spending, and everybody is lining up. Because they cannot afford to lose the superpower of the world. the United States. Because if Russia tries to attack anybody in Europe, United States will, Article 5 will clock in. And what does that mean? It means that the United States, Trump is now to make United States more powerful than it was before. And that will benefit not only the Europe, will benefit Ambazonia, and not only Ambazonia, it will benefit Africa. That is my reading. I may be wrong. I'm not involved in the local politics. I'm talking foreign policy now. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barrister Fru. I want to believe you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so coming from what you just said, I'm going to direct this question to Barrister Mbeseha now. Looking at the fact that with Trump's renewed leadership reshaping the United States foreign policy and also redefining alliance expectations at NATO, how should smaller nations interpret this shift in terms of security, sovereignty, and even future partnership? Barrister Mbeseha, this question is for you.
Well, there's a lot involved in those things. Let us take from the Democratic Republic of Congo their transactions with the United States and the claim by Trump that he will stop the war. That's a very good claim. But you don't just stop the war by talking. The question is the M19 or M whatever that is fighting there in Eastern Congo. They've been fighting for years, for decades. They don't fight with an empty hands. Where have they been getting the arms to go fight all these wars for so many years? And so you found that what we call the European, US, Africa Transaction Alliance came into issue. The Democratic Republic of Congo is very, very rich in minerals, but far better than Ambazonia. And so Trump does not even hide the idea that he's doing these transactions. He did a transaction with the Democratic Republic of Congo and announced it there. He went to Ukraine and said, of course, he invited the president of Ukraine in, and said, I'm just saying, I will mine the minerals from there, then I would defend them. That is public. He didn't hide that. But how long can he do this? This is American politics. Maybe he can do it for 4 years. That is possible. But what happens after 4 years? We don't know. And then again, let me go back to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Whatever thing comes out of there, whether there's peace or just a ceasefire for a while, it's a challenge to the African countries. They have this African Union thing, which is sitting there. We've been sitting here and talking about Pan-Africanism and so on and so forth. This war has been going on for years and for years, and they could not solve the problem. I remember seeing Thabo Mbeki, who was a mediator in that conflict at one time. Not long ago, he put out an audio about the Democratic Republic of Congo. He said the ethnicity there, the people who carry the M19, they are found in Rwanda and in Congo. Until the Rwandan government does nothing. Rwanda has nothing. They don't have any minerals. Until in the 1990s, the greatest export crops were not even coffee. They were selling hibiscus flower. So they go there. They are able to steal these minerals, ship it to Europe. In return, the M19 is giving weapons. They are not using African weapons. They are using European weapons to fight the central government in Kinshasa. And so, how far can this go? We don't know. What Trump is making a mistake is that this is 2025. The world has become a global village. A war is not fought. Most wars are not going to be fought by helicopters and tanks and ships. No, we're talking about nuclear weapon in the last segment. How big is a nuclear weapon? It's a very small thing. It's a very small thing, but it can take out the whole world. And so the dynamics are changing. Again, back to the Ukraine. The fight in Ukraine, whatever people call it, has been a fight over the expansion of NATO. I don't remember any other country in the world, except Afghanistan, that Russia went to invade them. Russians are not invaders. The fight in Ukraine has been the expansion of NATO to the borders of Russia, which Russia said would not happen. Up to this point, it has not happened. Now, given what Trump is doing with NATO right now, that it was supposed to expand, can we believe that they would convince Russia to come and plant their missiles in Ukraine as NATO? No. NATO was formed in 1949. It was a mutual defense thing, especially for European countries and America. America was the leader. But the NATO, which said that, also intended that the countries should not fight among themselves. The people who have exploited NATO most and the principles are the Europeans. In Europe, there are tiny countries, Portugal, England, France, Germany. They created that. They had a peace thing that they will not fight themselves. And what happened? The Europeans making them economically. What happened to that? The progress from there, and they are now the EU, which has one currency. Customs are free. They are not going to be fighting themselves. Are you going to promote NATO just to sit there and come and fight in Africa where there's no member there? Certainly not. Are you going to promote NATO to go and fight in Iran? Because Iran is not attacking you just because it is called NATO? No. So NATO is as useful as was intended. NATO was intended to counter the Russian bloc. The military Russian bloc has since disappeared. And so what Trump is doing might be very good for America for now, but I don't know how long that will last. We saw him go to one of these countries in the Middle East. We'll give them a plane. We'll give you a free plane, maybe a military plane. I saw people were murmuring in the Congress, no, we don't take these things publicly. So I don't know how long that thing will last. The American life political cycle is so short. 48 months is nothing. We don't know whether this type of thing will continue after Trump's 48 months. But bottom line, he's not helping NATO. From what you said, everybody should pay a fair share, provided that you're threatened. If you're not threatened, what will you go and pay the money? What will you ask Luxembourg to go and pay so much money to fund NATO when nobody is threatening Luxembourg? Nobody will do that. We will even get the money. They have now a tight economy under the euro, except the pound, which is the British money. And so they are tied with this. How can you claim that you are trying to defend NATO and you are lockerheads with Canada? Canada is one of the most important countries in NATO, militarily, economically, and otherwise. And so you don't destroying your allies by sowing division among your allies. And so that's probably not going to work. That's my take about it. But again, what do we take from it as Ambazonia? That's where I go back to the thing. What do we take from it as Africans? If the Congolese could fight with the Rwandese for decades over natural resources, and the African Union did nothing, they sat there and saw them fight and die. They attempted to prove them through Toby Mbeki, they failed. They waited until a certain Trump comes to power in America, signs deals with the Congo people. He only signed the deals with the Congo, not with Rwanda, because Rwanda has nothing to offer. They have no minerals in Rwanda. But he signed these deals to end a conflict thousands of miles away. If we can end the conflict, that will be good news for us. Because over the years, Congolese have died, Rwandese have died. They should not be dying like that. Everything should have been done to end the war. But again, they did not do it. What do we get out of it as Ambazonians? We realize the world is a world of interest, be it military, be it economic, or just posturing. And so, as Mbeseha Nsoh says, we are not insignificant in Africa. We are not insignificant in the world, strategically, not necessarily economically. Strategically, we're very important in the Gulf of Guinea. And so we have to learn from this. If this transaction, so be it. The war in Congo, they have been fighting for decades. It has not ended. It is ending now because they are going to sit on the conference table to discuss what was the problem. And
They have already.
That's what other people will know. The Congo is so compared to Rwanda, but they were not able to defeat them. Yeah, and so Cameroon is so big compared to Ambazonia. Nigeria is so big compared to Ambazonia, but they will not defeat us militarily. They will come to the table. So says Mr. Wilber. Combine all the forces from France and their allies, and you're not able to defeat Ambazonia. And so that is what I take from it. That's what I think we should learn from it as Ambazonia. That's what takes us to our course. And that should also remind us, because we have been fond of quarreling and disagreeing here about something they call Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism that cannot end a war in Ambazonia. It cannot end a conflict 30 years old in the Congo. So where is this Pan-Africanism going to when the Africans are dying? And so they had all these minerals. The money was, they've been exploiting them, taking them raw to the United States, and the Africans in the Congo have been suffering. The Africans in Rwanda have been suffering. Why are they fighting the war? Because there's no road even, it's the jungle. It's a cultural forest. You cannot drive from Kinshasa to Goma. There's no road there. And so all these minerals they had, what prevented them from the place? What prevented them from making a golden country out of it? Poor governance, graft, which we Ambazonians are fighting against. And so that's what I take from it. That's what I think Ambazonians should learn from it. Whether they have their NATO or not, that is not our problem. We're not going to be members of NATO. If they want to trip us or belonging to NATO, I've not seen any African country to remember. Neither is there anyone that's ever wished to be in the military, in the Russian military wing. But again, the world has become so small that just throwing bombs, using tanks, will not prevent somebody from getting a nuclear weapon. They will get it. They want to get it. And the defense against a military weapon is not a ship. It's something more than that. And that technology is not the reserve of the United States today. It is not the reserve of the white man or the Europeans. Our own children have gone to these nuclear schools. It is knowledge that can be acquired. We can acquire it. If I had one, I would have a nuclear bomb. And they will never talk to us anymore. They will pack and go. Over to you.
Thank you, Barrister Mbeseha. We're seeing what is happening around the world. You know, the world is moving fast when it comes to global politics, global diplomacy, when it comes to global interest as well. Now, Barrister Gana, over to you now. Looking at the fast pace of the world, one cannot help but notice the United States right at the center of it all. And the United States President Donald Trump pulling most of the strings. And we're seeing that with certain decisions that impact the globe, like involvement in the war in Iran, we've seen Donald Trump make a decision unanimously without the clearance of the legislative body of the United States. And we're seeing where this is heading, making very bold decisions made by President Trump himself. And one question leaves hanging in the air, and I'll direct this to you now, Barrister Gana. We were wondering, will the United States, looking at the way things are going, will the United States, will the democracy of the United States survive President Donald Trump? Do you think so, Barrister Gana?
Thank you very much for that question, and thanks again to our panelists for the very brilliant, sometimes controversial contributions which they have been making here. Before I address your question, I want to go back and just kind of sprinkle tits and bits of addresses on some of the things that they've said, some of the things that I sort of slightly disagree with. I just want to go back and revisit that Palestinian conflict. And I just want to say again for the record that the Palestinians are not innocent victims here, because we, especially we from the developing world, we like to emotionally side with the Palestinians, but not realize that the Palestinians have been given a chance of peace several times. 2006, we had the Oslo Accords. Yasser Arafat refused to sign them because Yasser Arafat was afraid that the radical wing, Islamic Jihad, was going to slay him. And who was always behind the scenes controlling or influencing Islamic Jihad? You guessed it right, Iran. We have to realize that those other proxies in the region, Lebanon, that Israel decimated Hezbollah there, they've not been innocent participants. They are not innocent victims, because they had been firing rockets at Israel for years. And again, who is building Hezbollah? Who is behind the scenes? Drum roll, you guessed it right, Iran. We have to look again at the Houthis in Yemen. Who is arming the Houthis to destabilize that region? Again, drum roll, it's Iran. Coming back to Trump and addressing some of these points that were made and my disagreements at the logical positioning. If we look at Israel attacking Iran and America joining Israel to attack Iran, again, let's piggyback to the election of Trump, and let's piggyback to some of the conversations we had on this show about a year ago, where I boldly said that Trump will win because Kamala Harris was not a consequential leader, and that Americans do not want to empower America with a weak leader. Again, as you said, Trump has shifted the global array, the global diplomatic landscape so much that is unrecognizable from the past. I seem to be dancing around, but I have a point that I'm coming to. Iran had been sponsoring all of these proxies because Iran says it wants to support or its move is to support the Palestinians. But again, not allowing the Palestinians to make peace with Israel. The principal factor in the Middle East that has prevented the Palestinians from making peace with Israel is Iran. And so, for a consequential leader like Trump, for a consequential leader like Netanyahu in Israel, if you're sponsoring all of these proxies and you're sitting there in Tehran, watching the Palestinians die, watching those in Lebanon die, but you are sponsoring them and not paying the price. Maybe it was time blood flew in Iran. Maybe it was time the consequences of what Iran had been doing to other proxies visit Iran, so that when Iran wants to continue supporting those proxies to destabilize Israel, Iran will think twice that that conflict is not just going to be limited to these proxies hitting Israel, but Israel, and maybe with alliance with the United States, might come back to hit Tehran. With the Ayatollah hiding on the ground for several days, he now understands what it means for Israelis to be facing daily rockets from Gaza, again funded, built, helped by Iranian engineering. If those rockets and those bombs start hitting Tehran also, then Tehran would think twice about its support of these proxies. They say behavior is a function of its consequences. I don't believe for 1 second that Israel does not want to make peace with the Palestinians. I don't believe for 1 second that the Palestinians have not had the chance to live in peace. Because if we go back to 1991, after the Gulf War, Bush 1 dragged Yitzhak Shamir, who was the prime minister of Israel at that time, kicking and screaming to negotiate with the Palestinians at the Oslo Accords there. Who refused to sign? Yasser Arafat. And again, we talk about Israel now going into Gaza. We see in 2006, Israel pulled out of the whole of Gaza. Did the Palestinians take that territory and build a model economy? No. They took the territory again with the support of Iran. They focused on building tunnels and rockets to attack Israel. Again, they invited Israel and culminated in the October 7th attack that killed over 1,200 Israelis, and Israel responded in kind. Now, let me stop that and come back to Trump. People look at the way Trump is acting. To understand Trump, you have to understand certain qualities that Trump has. Again, he was a real estate developer, born into a real estate family in New York, studied finance in college, and as Barrister Mbeseha and Barrister Fru John Nsoh rightly said, he has been a very transactional figure all of these years. In his real estate deals, in his business deals, the guy is type A transactional. But let's look at the qualities that define Trump. One, the number one thing that defines Trump is his interest in whiteness. Trump is marveled and is obsessed with whiteness. So if you want to understand Trump, the first thing you have to understand Trump is that the guy is influenced and is obsessed with whiteness. Number two, he's interested in fostering capitalist transactions, especially where America's interests are primordial. So, for example, back in 2013, 2011, when Obama wanted to attack Libya, Trump said, why attack Libya? They have just these beautiful big coastlines. Let's just go build some casinos and some resources there. Let's negotiate with Gaddafi there instead of attacking and killing the guy. So the guy is transactional, and he is interested in capitalist transactions where America's interests are primordial here. Three, he's interested in America being an unparalleled power. He's interested in America being an unparalleled power in the world. Four, he is interested in exponentially increasing his family's wealth. Trump is so obsessed about being the richest guy on the block that he even goes and fakes the value of his assets, as we saw in law cases and the conclusion of those cases in New York, to sort of boost the value of his assets so that he can be a billionaire on the books. He's like big, beautiful thing. So he's interested in exponentially increasing the wealth of his family. Now, when you tie all of those attributes, and again, the other thing about Trump, let me say a fifth thing, Trump is not ideological. Trump, the guy is, if you cut him, he does not bleed ideological. You can talk about your right-wing things and your left-wing things and your center-right and your center-left things. Trump is not ideological at all. The guy is just transactional. So those are 5 qualities that I would say define Trump. Now, how do these 5 qualities affect how he is addressing the conflicts, the conflicts here in the world? Again, let's look at this deal in the Congo. China is beginning to stress America regarding rare earth minerals. Congo is one of the largest countries in Africa, full of these rare earth minerals. What is Trump about? The guy is transactional. Doesn't want to worry about China. Let's strike a deal with Congo to end this war so that we can get in there and access these raw earth minerals and put them to America's use. Now, we as Africans, where should we and how should we position ourselves? We should position ourselves to bargain rightly for what we are going to get out of these minerals and use that to develop Africa. So it's not just that the West comes and exploits us. It's not just that Trump is going to go into the Congo with this American businessman, and he is so interested in traveling in a cloak, in a gang of businessmen, foraging capitalists, dripping with greed, going into the Congo to exploit these minerals. But we have a say. We have leverage on the table as Africans. Bargain for the best deal and then use what we get, even if we get just 30%, if we get just 20%, if we end up using that to develop our countries, we are going to be on the road to prosperity. So let's not always just blame the West as being capitalist and suppressing and imperialist. We have to stand up for our interests. So it's going in there dripping. What is it else about the Congo that makes Trump to say, let's strike this, let's end this war? He's seen a lot of dark-colored people showing up in the United States and fighting for asylum. They give Trump they list all of those asylum seekers, where they are coming from. He sees them coming from the Congo. He sees them coming from Cameroon, and he looks at these wars and he pairs them with the laws of the United States that give people the right to seek asylum when they have an existential conflict and when they have a reason due to being persecuted from back home to seek asylum. So he says, how can we stop all of these dark-colored people from coming? Remember, I just said his first primordial thing is whiteness. Let's not dilute the West. Let's settle this conflict so that they can stay back where they are, so that they do not have to come to the United States. So that is really what is guiding Trump's interest. But again, if you look at it, it's in Africa's best interest, because Africa is exporting its best asset, its people. So it's going to work great for Africa. So it ties with his capitalist interest. It ties with him seeing America as being a primordial power. You have to realize that just about 2 months ago, Trump was caught in a hot mic in the White House. I think he was speaking with a foreign leader. I don't know if that was the president of Prime Minister of Australia, where he was saying, oh, they say some of these people coming, they're seeking asylum, they're from the Congo, something. He has all of that information. And so he is being guided by his primordial interest: whiteness, foraging capitalism, and keeping the West as white as possible. Now let's look at the other areas of the world and how these Trump's values influences the way Trump thinks. See, I went to school in the United States, undergraduate. I was in a white fraternity. I interacted with a lot of these kids who think like Trump, and so I think I understand them very well. When Trump sees Russia, people don't understand that. When Trump sees Russia, the first thing that fascinates Trump about Russia is Russia's whiteness. Russia is the most white nation on earth. You can even see where Trump went and picked most of his wives from. Eastern Europe, the most white areas of the world. And so when Trump sees Russia, he is fascinated by whiteness. And he is so sensitive. People don't get this. He is so sensitive against white people killing other white people. Trump doesn't like that. Why is he so sensitive about that? Because he sees non-white people in the world, their population increasing, the white population decreasing. And why are we fighting this nasty war in Ukraine, where we are having Russians killing Ukrainians or white people killing each other? And that's why he was saying, I'm going to end this war on day one, because the death of every additional white person to Trump is a tragedy. But he's seen Russia through the lens of Russian whiteness, is also has some nexus with his other interests of primordial capitalism, and also having America being a primordial power on the globe. And how has that affected his interest? That has juxtaposed his thinking and his strategy to outfoxing Putin. He has basically spoken a way for Putin to limit his war to Ukraine, acting as if he is going to support Putin no matter what. Pay attention. And then he has turned around and he has struck a mineral deals with Ukraine, where America is gonna benefit 500 million to a trillion. 500 billion to a trillion dollar interest in minerals. And if you observe what happened within 48 hours after Zelensky signed that mineral deal, what happened was both Marco Rubio and Trump made statements that they are going to get out of the attempts for Russia to make peace within 48 hours if Putin does not make peace. That they are going to get out of those talks and efforts to make peace with Russia and Ukraine if Putin is not willing to make peace. How do you conclude that? I have my mineral deals. We're going to come in here. We're going to be doing the protection and the minerals here. Who are going to be those going into Ukraine to exploit those minerals? The American businessmen connected maybe to Trump's family and to his bunch of friends are going to form these companies that are going to go in there and exploit those minerals. And that speaks most as to why this conflict is going to end and as to why Russia is not going to get all that Russia is asking for. So you can see the definition of who Trump is based on these 5 values that I've articulated has shifted the power balance in Ukraine to Ukraine's favor. And one other thing that has happened is that over these 4 years or 3.5 years, Western military companies have come into Ukraine and built a powerful manufacturing base for drones, for missiles, for arms, for all of that. That has given Ukraine the last thing that Russia ever wanted for Ukraine to have. So Russia has already lost the war, because without Russia invading Ukraine, Ukraine wouldn't have built such a powerful military industrial base where it is producing Neptune missiles that have a range of about 500 kilometers deep into Russia. So Barrister Mbeseha and Barrister Fru John Nsoh, they were very right. And your comments also, you were very right in saying Trump has shifted the global political dynamics. Again, let me echo everything I've been saying in what the American general who was appointed within the last 4 years to head NATO's force. What did he say? He said something that was very instructive. Sometimes you have to listen to these key figures, listen to what they are saying, and decode the meaning. What that American general said, the newest guy who was just appointed to head NATO, he said, and this speaks to Ambazonia also, he says, sometimes the drive and the passion for indigenous people to defend their land is often being underestimated. And the Ukrainians, in terms of the fact that they are defending their homogeneous and their aboriginal lands, their drive to defend those lands are being underestimated in thinking that Russia might prevail over them. But what is the second meaning you decode from that? It means America has already made a strategic decision aligning with Europe to support the Ukrainians defend what is theirs. For us Ambazonians, how does that lesson import into us? We are defending our sovereign lands. We have to do everything possible by all means necessary to contribute the funds, to give the logistical support, to defend our lands, because it is only through firepower that La Republique even started speaking the language of negotiation. And it is only through firepower that this logic of us defending our sovereign lands is going to come to play. So I just wanted to again answer your questions regarding Trump shift of global dynamics. One of the things that I suggest, and I'm going to suggest it openly in the air, we Ambazonians have to make a rally, go to the White House, hold signs and saying, hey, Trump, make Ambazonia America's 51st state. We have to say, hey, Trump, make America Ambazonia's 51st state. Not because we want Ambazonia to become America's 51st state, but because we want to draw his attention that we are the kind of people that he likes and draw the appetite of that transactional diplomacy that Barrister Fru
That's Barrister Gana.
I'm so happy that this little rejoice.
Oh God!
Start preparing those lines. Show up.
Come on, man.
Make Ambazonia America's 51st state.
Leave that thing. Leave that thing.
Come to ask, but what are these Ambazonians fighting about? It might lead to
Leave that thing, master. Leave that thing.
diplomacy. So, thank you
Well,
again for
Ghana,
giving me the floor. I appreciate that.
I was gonna say, indeed, you have cheated into
the word to take home is transactional diplomacy.
So, Uncle Lady, if you give me 1 second, I can just say something very, very briefly. We're not getting you. Are you giving me the 1 second?
I don't think she's here.
She's not hearing.
Giving me the 1 second.
She's not hearing.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why.
I didn't get what you said. Sorry.
I said, if you give me 1 second, I will just say something for the interest of Ambazonians.
Okay, so, Barrister Mbeseha, please, less than 60 seconds.
Yes, I think the narration of and the analysis of Barrister Gana is quite good. But again, when we started this segment, I said Israel and Palestine, the conflict is Ambazonian on all fours. And so we can only learn from that one because we fall right there. The problem between Israel and Palestine is incomplete decolonization by the British. Now, the conflict between Israel and Palestine, who is the aggressor, is what you should ask yourselves. We Ambazonians were fighting for a right to our own country. The 48, they carved out land out of Palestine and created Israel. That land they carved and gave to Israel. They displaced people there. But Israel, as at that time, had its own borders. From here to here is the state of Israel. It's caused this attempted peace agreement to fail. It's not Iran. We have been singing in Ambazonia, we want justice, we want peace with justice. The first thing that caused them to fail all the time is the Palestinians have insisted on the return of the people removed in Palestine to put Israel there. If they cannot return, they should be compensated, which is what we're asking for. Will you imagine that like people came and took Bunda and took Bamenda or Tiko and built them there, and then they will say we'll make peace and leave that land with them without compensation for your father's house or mine that was there. Now, we have sung the song of peace with justice. Again, the second thing that has caused the attempted peace to fail is we have been singing here in Ambazonia. Article 4B of the African Union Charter, which says that countries are recognized as per their boundaries at independence. As far as Israel is concerned, Israel should be recognized as of its boundaries at its own creation. When they were created, they had boundaries, limited and drawn out. But why has it failed? 1967, Israel came and took over the lands that they have built on now. They call them settlements, occupied territories. They will not want to go away. They take them and keep them. Can this be a reason why Palestine should just accept? Certainly not. And again, concerning Ambazonia, you go and target Iran because they support the man you don't like. What will happen tomorrow if, for example, Nigeria was supporting us, Ambazonians, to resist? We are on the right to go and attack Nigeria.
Well, Barrister Mbeseha, sorry, but that's way past 1 minute, and the time is way behind us because we have to join in the draft very quickly. But we get what you're trying to say, and it's always an interesting thing to get into the historicity of Ambazonia to know the way forward. But then when we say Ambazonia's way forward, the question is, what of Ambazonia? What happens to a nation like Ambazonia in a world preoccupied with giants? Well, it is easy to forget wars that don't make oil more expensive or wars that don't change stock prices. But Ambazonia, too, is at war with a colonial regime, with a world that looks away, and now increasingly with the despair of being forgotten. Then as the world inches towards another historic explosion, the people of Ambazonia remain trapped in a conflict that predates this global unraveling, yet perfectly mirrors its illegitimate power, weaponized silence, strategic neglect. They are caught in a proxy conflict of their own, where sovereignty is dismissed as rebellion and peaceful resistance is met with burning homes and mass arrest. The question then is no longer if the world will explode, but when. And when it does, what happens to those who have already been living in the aftermath for years? Well, we are now in a moment where the lines between local struggle and global war are beginning to fade. In Israel and Iran, we see the rehearsal of a much larger war. In Ambazonia, we see its quiet prologue. And in America's new foreign doctrine, we see its catalyst. It is no longer a question of if, but how the world will spiral into a conflict it is clearly preparing for. But until then, Ambazonia still bleeds without United Nations press statement, without international outcry, and without ceasefire agreement. And that silence is not just heartbreaking, it is strategic. Because in a world where only profitable pain is heard, the loudest cry might still be the one no one bothers to listen to. Well, with that, we'll take a quick break and head quick into the draft. Thank you for listening.
Na wonya ekema monono ewot ikawa irule magufu liwalini ambe wali kombeme yo inge njali waja kumba naliumunga mombi we ano.
The War Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La Republica War. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough, so let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It's time for the Federal Capital Territory, Fako.
Wonya wotani na wonya ekema monono ewot ikawa irule magufu liwalini ambe wali kombeme yo inge njali waja kumba naliumunga mombi we ano.
The War Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La Republica War. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough, so let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It's time for the Federal Capital Territory, Fako.
Wonya wotani na wonya ekema monono ewot ikawa irule magufu liwalini ambe wali kombeme
All right, thank you so much, Stir Smart, for that extensive report. and how you were able to merge all of the angles trending on the global scene. But right now, we'll get into the stories from the home front. Before we get to the draft proper, let's just take one report emerging from the home front. And, once in the week, we'll get into all of the reports that we are not able to take today due to the time that we do not have. So let's go into the elections. The elections, there was a communique that was released within the week. And when it comes to the election, we all know that it is a very sensitive aspect of this Ambazonian freedom and liberation movement that the president, Dr. Samuel Fako, do not take for granted. There has been a position on which Ambazonians stand at this moment. But you know what they say about blacklegs and those who would have ulterior motives and all of that. So over the weekend or during the week, the spokesperson, Dr. Martin Mungwa, for the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, issued a firm warning to individuals accused of secretly assisting La Republic to Cameroon in organizing voter registration within Ambazonian territory. Now, he emphasized that the Ambazonian government considers such actions as a direct violation of its sovereignty and a betrayal of the liberation cause. Well, according to Mr. Mungwa, Dr. Mungwa, I beg your pardon, these operations aim to legitimize Cameroon's control over Ambazonia through illegal electoral processes. And those involved, he said, will be held accountable. And so he confirmed that a list of named collaborators has been compiled, which you can see on the screen, with evidence linking them to covert voter enrollment campaigns. These individuals, he said, are in breach of the 2018 Emergency Security and Anti-Collaboration Decree and may face charges of treason. Dr. Mungwa also revealed that the government has submitted details on the matters to the International Criminal Court, along with over 90 documented cases of foreign interference involving Cameroonian, French, and Nigerian actors. Of course, he called for national vigilance, urged all Ambazonian citizens to resist any attempt to involve them in foreign elections and to report suspicious activities to local authorities or self-defense groups. Well, barristers in the House, he reiterated the government's position that Ambazonia remains a sovereign nation and will not tolerate any effort to normalize occupation through political manipulation. Now, while that is going on, there is bribery of this electoral phase in Ambazonia at the moment. Aside this communique, we have also seen a report or received a report that as La Republic de Cameroon is intensifying preparation for its upcoming colonial elections. Evidence from the ground in Adek, Inji, local, which is located in Momo County of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, has revealed the usual blend of bribery, manipulation, and psychological warfare being deployed to force electoral participation in a territory engulfed in conflict. All right, so in a disturbing video, which we are going to show, that has been circulating amongst local residents, civilians in Andek, in G, are seen engaging in voter registration activities. Not far from the regulation post, packs of beer cans were visibly stationed, and all too familiar tactics used long by the CPDM regime to coerce and entice vulnerable citizens into legitimizing their oppression with a vote. Let's just take a look at that video.
Okay. Don't worry. That's good. I'll be happy with sister when they do civic rights. We can register for elecamp. And the best thing, because we are going to just come for us. They talk, now only for talk. for vote, now forget vote card. And forget vote card, now for register.
Oh, well, barristers in the House, it would interest you to know that this fraudulent process, according to observers, is not just an insult to the intelligence of the Ambazonian people, but a deliberate effort to undermine the liberation movement by attempting to portray a false sense of peace and participation in colonial politics. The Amazonian government has issued a strong condemnation of the move, stressing that elections cannot be conducted in a land torn by war and under occupation. Meanwhile, Ambazonians across the territory are reminded again that the only legitimate political engagement is one that acknowledges the sovereignty of Ambazonia and the right of its people to self-determination, not one manipulated by beer cans and bribes. Oh, well, this is what we know here on Undaunted, but I'm sure that Barrister Fru, Barrister Mbeseha, and Barrister Valentine Gana will definitely tell us a little more of what everyone should know. Barrister Fru, please, let's start with you.
Well, this year it's much better than the previous years because we have been able to identify those involved in violation of the law in Ambazonia by registering people to vote for a foreign country in interfering in the sovereignty of Ambazonia, one, and number two, forcing people to vote during a war, when there's war going on. That is a violation. And therefore, I congratulate the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia for compiling the list of those people, and our ASA will have to go to work right now and make sure that all the registration and everything that has already taken place is destroyed and burnt before anything happens. The work is difficult, but we have to put the resources at their disposal to do it, because it is untenable. It is terrible. Andek of all the places, people are registering. Elekam is in Andek openly. My God, where is the president of Momo? Where is the chairman of Momo? Where is he? He should take note and handle that problem and report to the central government. I am flabbergasted, but I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Mongwa for the job well done. We have been able to dig up all the culprits, and we will go after them. There will be no election on our land. That message should go to everybody involved, that you have just mortgaged your life by conducting a treasonous offense on the people of Ambazonia. More than 70,000 people of Ambazonia have been killed by La Republic of Cameroon during this war, and you are there trying to hook-wing people to go and vote for La Republic of Cameroon in Ambazonia, meaning that you did not take the declaration by our former president Ayuk Tabe, who declared our country a sovereign country in 2017. Meaning that we have a lot of black legs in Andek. I hope they are hearing me. It's not going to be business as always. We will make sure that you don't vote that nonsense that you are registering. And we will make sure that all the registers will be seized from you. And if you want to fight, come out and fight. It doesn't matter. I don't know where the restoration, the Ambazonia State Army in Momo is. because they have taken, La Republic has taken those counties that are not actually fighting, and they are trying to show the world that there is no mercy. It will not work. We don't have to fight in every county, but when it comes to this election, we will fight in all the counties. Watch my word. Thank you very much.
Officially for the draft, but before you go, please let's we have this write-up we have for Fako. When we come back, you just say something and that's it. Or you want to go now to join the Zoom? Do you want to leave now, or you still hang around? All right, so today is indeed a day of remembrance and rededication. Fako County hosts its 2025 county draft, not just as a mobilization drive, but as a solemn tribute to two towering pillars of the Ambazonia liberation struggle, the late Ma Iya Ima and the late Director General of ABC Networks 24, who passed away on the 15th of June 2025, and the late Vice President Eric Abongo Ate, who passed away on the 16th of June 2025, both in 24 hours. These two patriots, though departed, continue to shape the heart and spirit of our nation's quest for freedom. Maya Endele, a revered journalist and matriarch of Ambazonian media, transitioned to glory on the 15th of June in California. At a time when many would seek comfort in retirement, she stepped out of her nursing profession and returned to her first love, journalism, not for profit, but for purpose. She became the founding voice of ABC Networks 24, guiding its mission to inform, inspire, and mobilize Ambazonians across the world. Even in her final day, she remained focused on her assignment, preparing for yet another ABC founding event, committed to the vision she carried till her last breath. Her voice was soft, yet unwavering, a dove spirit, even in storms. Though she endured falsehood and plot, she never let bitterness cloud her mission. Her leadership was marked by professionalism, grace, and unrelenting devotion to the truth. And she did not work alone. Ma Emma hailed from one of the most historic lineages in Ambazonian political history, that of Dr. Emmanuel Mbela Lifathe E.M. Endele, a native of Boya in Fako County, and the first Prime Minister of Southern Cameroon under British administration, a towering figure in the pre-independence era. Dr. Endele was both a medical doctor and founding leader of the Cameroon's National Congress. From the legacy of leadership and sacrifice, Ma Ima drew strength and built her own chapter in the struggle for Ambazonian sovereignty. Standing shoulder to shoulder with her in legacy is the Vice President, Mr. Abongo Ate, a man of immense depth, discipline, and quiet fire. He passed away on the 16th of June 2025, leaving behind not just a seat in government, but a legacy of restraint, courage, and unwavering loyalty. Known affectionately as PAR VP, Mr. Ate lived and breathed the struggle, even on the hospital bed. He remained focused on the cause, lied against, attacked, and challenged by those who sought to derail the mission. He never lost composure. He gave abundantly to the struggle, financially, intellectually, spiritually, yet never once sought praise or platform. He remained in the shadows of his leader, yet was often the voice of reason and stability behind the senses. Described as a lion and the son of a lion, Parik was a man of rare conviction, whose deep sense of self-control, humility, and sacrifice continues to echo in the corridors of the movement. Together, Ma Ima Endele and VP Eric Ate represent the yin and yang of leadership, the dove and the lion, the voice of compassion and the force of conviction. As the people of Fako County gather today to give, they do so with reverence, not only because these two figures were children of the land, but because they helped shape it. Their lives are a reminder that the Ambazonian struggle is not a spirit or sprint, nor a stage for applause. It is a calling, and it is one they answered until their very last breath. As we broadcast this report, we call upon Ambazonians everywhere to honor their memory, not just with words, but with commitment. Let every donation, every sacrifice today carry the spirit of those who gave their all without counting the cost. Because as one tribute said, the lion has slept to roar no more, but his echoes will reverberate until we reach Boya. The dove lies no more, but her voice will speak compassion and commitment to the generations yet unborn. Today, Fako rises for Ma'ima, for VP Ate, for Ambazonia. We honor their memory and we continue the mission. Before we get Dr. Yaya's invitation video, Barrister Fru, are you still there? Would you want to say something to encourage everyone to be part of the draft today? All right, Barrister Fru is no longer there, but before we go, here is a video that would lead you into the draft. See you next week for another edition of Undaunted. I am Oyin Opala.
Greetings, fellow comrades, and once again, our condolence to one another on the huge losses we encountered recently. We can talk about that forever, but the show must go on. We must carry on with the unfinished business. That is the only way, that's the best way, I guess, we can honor our hero and heroine who left us in active service, having given their all, and by that I truly mean their all. So please, in honor of these two great patriots who happen to also stem from the Federal Capital City, my Emma was born in Boya, and the VP was born in Victoria. So I just want to encourage us that despite the heavy clouds overshadowing us, the loss, these huge losses, we still have to pick up ourselves, encourage one another, and move forward. So please, you be encouraged to show up at the draft. The Federal Capital Territory is drafting, and that is very symbolic. Being at our federal capital, being the first actually launching the county draft, that means a lot. As to me, this is actually almost prophetic. So it tells me we're closer to Boya, despite what we've just been through. So please be encouraged, call one another, call another comrade who is feeling down. Let's sit up. I'm sure those angels, I believe Ambazonian angels that we now have in heaven will be watching over us and be very, very happy and proud of us to see that we are going to complete the job they left due to their term of office, so to say, on this earthly journey. So thank you. See you. The draft starts at 8 p.m. Amber time on Saturday, the 28th of June, 2028. Please call, encourage. Thank you. God bless. See you at the draft. Please draft for my Emma, draft for our VP, and let's get to Boya, where we can honor them in a really, really very special way. Thank you. God bless.
Wonya wotani na wonya ikema monono. Ewot ikawa irule magufu. Liwalini. Ambe wali kombeme. Yo. Inge ngijali waja kumba. Naliumungaka. Mombi we. Hello.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La República Cameroon. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough, so let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
Stand for the Federal Capital Territory, Fako.
Yeah, Yawuno ma yawuno.